to CTN. I'm your host, Robert Van Sluten. In the last episode, we talked about running on a device. In this episode, we're going to take a closer look at the iOS simulator. As we've already done, you know that you can start the simulator from Xcode. And we've done this quite a bit. You can also select how you want the simulator to run. There's 3.5 and 4-inch iPhones. There are iPads. And there's the 64-bit processor devices. It is also possible to run iOS 6 simulation, but you have to do an additional download to do that. There is another way of starting the simulator, and this is useful if you just want to run the simulator to run through a bunch of tests. If you go to the Xcode menu, there is a Open Developer Tools item, and you can select iOS Simulator. Xcode is not attached to the simulator in this case. This will start. We can go ahead and minimize this window now. Okay, there's a few things worth noting here. At this point, you can actually change the simulation. There's a hardware menu where you can pick different devices. iPad. And you have an equivalent list that you did in Xcode. You can also, I go over to the apps here, if I run, let's say, multiply, I can hit the home button. And I could also lock. There. Okay. Now you notice this is relatively small. All right. If I go over to the window, I am able to scale this and go to 75%. I can also go to 100. I'm also able to stay in front. In other words, keep this window always in the front of other windows. And this is very useful when you're in Xcode and you're running the simulator. You can keep the simulator on top of the Xcode window for when you're setting breakpoints and so on. Now I'm going to go back to I'm going to do a 3.5-inch iPhone here. It's slow running QuickTime, and it's even been slower after Maverick. I find Maverick sluggish. Okay. You'll note that I'm not getting a full view here in the sense that there's no home button. Basically, I'm just getting the background view and the status bar. If I go to 100% the scale factor, oops, actually I went backwards. There we go. I went to 50, not 100. Then it's actually giving me more. It's actually showing it more as a device. So I actually get a home button right down on the bottom here. Now let's scale back out. We'll go to 50. Now I have some additional hardware control. You'll note over here that I can rotate left, I can rotate right. I can also do that with the command arrow keys. Sure it's selected. Now it's not really doing much because when the Springboard, which is the program that is running to launch applications, doesn't really rotate like other apps do that you've seen before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and I'm going to actually start slider. And I'm going to rotate it. Now you notice it doesn't really look too good. The kind of alignment of the controls isn't what you want. And that's because we have not talked about layout yet. There's this notion of auto layout. And we're going to do that in a later episode. The last thing I want to mention is that, let's actually go to home. The iOS simulator is also capable of doing a reset content and settings. In other words, I can clear this and get it back to an initial state. Because when you do a lot of testing on a lot of small applications, you tend to get a lot of garbage on your simulator. You can also hold down on an app. You'll get the normal jittering and delete buttons that you normally get. There's a lot more to this, and we'll go to the next slide and I'll point you towards the documentation. Okay, I strongly recommend that you take a look at the Interacting with iOS Simulator document that you can get through the documentation window. Things we haven't covered, for example, is that there's ways of doing the more complicated gestures with the mouse and keyboard. And there's also some other features. That's it for this episode. In the next 2 episodes, we're going to be talking about keyboards. Thanks for watching.